Hi guys, welcome to Creations by Karen. Today I'm going to show you step by step how to do this adorable summer wreath for your backyard or your patio. I'm going to show you everything that you need to be able to make this wreath, and let's get going. Okay, so you're going to need a few tools to start. You're going to need a set of needle nose pliers, something to cut tie wraps with because I am going to be using tie wraps, a pair of scissors, one that you don't really care about. These work for me. And I'm going to be using these wire cutters at the end to cut chenille stems. We are going to be using hot glue, and I prefer to use Gorilla Glue. Certainly you can use any kind of glue that you want to use, but I really like Gorilla Glue. I am going to be using 4-inch zip ties, and I am going to be using a piece of roping, okay, and that's at the end. This is going to be made on a 14-inch wreath form, and this is something that you can get at Dollar Tree here in London, Ontario, Canada. Hi. I live in Canada, so we don't have a lot of the things that is available in the States, and cost of shipping from the States is crazy ridiculous. So we try to do what we can do here. Certainly we do have a couple of places that do sell mesh, but it's very expensive. So unless you have a coupon or they're having a huge sale on the mesh, it's just not cost effective to buy it, say, at Michael's per se. So I am using Dollarama Deco Mesh. Now I did get this in the Easter section just this past month, I guess. It is 6-inch mesh, so all my mesh is going to be cut into 6-inch squares. Normally when you're doing wreaths, you like to have them cut into 10-inch squares, but mine are going to be cut into 6-inch because I only have 6-inch size. And I'm going to need 4 rolls of this, and the reason for that is I double my mesh. I want to make sure that the colors are very vibrant in my my wreaths, and in order to do that using dollar store mesh, I have to double it. I do use a wood burner when I'm cutting my mesh, and that's simply a choice that I've made. Certainly you can go ahead and use scissors to cut your mesh. I prefer a wood burner only because it really finishes both ends of the mesh that you're cutting, and also there's not as much fray. Deco mesh is notorious for fraying, and I don't want to have to go through and cut all that fray off at the end of making the wreath, if that makes sense. I am going to cover the back of my wreath because simply I really like things finished to look finished. So I found this placemat at Dollar Tree, and I think it was $1.25. And I cut it to size. Okay, so let's get going. This is a piece of mesh that I've cut into 6x6. As you can see, you have a finished edge here and a finished edge here, and these sides are done with a wood burner, and so the mesh is like quite together, right? So I don't have to worry about it slipping around. I do like to use a cutting board when I'm folding my mesh. This is a flannel backed tablecloth, and it's just a lot easier if you're using a cutting board or a piece of glass. So what I like to do is have the finished edge to the right and the left, come into the middle, just scrunch the middle so it looks sort of like a bow tie, and then I'm just going to fold this over, and there's going to be a bit of it's going to look like a split petal. Okay, so this is kind of like a sunflower petal, a Dean Michael sunflower petal, although I am separating it slightly. And I like to put tie wraps, or not tie wraps, rubber bands on the base of my petals, just so I can make them all at one time and then go ahead and just put them into the wreath. So I'm going to make a few of those for you so you can get an idea how to make it. So once again, finished edge here, come into the middle, come up and down like a bow tie, and then I just simply turn this over, and you like them to be approximately the same size, and just put a elastic band on the base of it so it looks like this. Okay, let's do a couple more of those. I live in Canada, and it's April, middle of April, really cold. It snowed this morning. Crazy. Just put this on here. I'll do a couple more. Finished edge here, finished edge here, come into the middle, come up and down, and just turn the bottom or the top. So you want the finished edges crossing over the unfinished edges, if that makes sense. And just put a rubber band on it. I'm a big fan of rubber bands. Before I used to just put clothes pegs on them to hold them, and I had clothes pegs everywhere. And I watched a YouTube channel, and somebody was using these little rubber bands, and I just jumped on board, and ever since then I just use rubber bands when I make them. Okay, I'm just going to turn this over. So the whole wreath is going to be being made using this particular petal. It's really important that for me it's time saving. Just if I'm sitting watching TV at night, I can just make these petals, right? And you're going to need 30 petals for the outside of the wreath form, and then 16 for the inside. All right, so there you go. So I've gone ahead and put all my tie wraps. So this is a 4-rung wreath form, and I'm putting the tie wraps on the second one. So this will be the first, the second one is the next one in. And I just purchased this really funky center at, I believe it was Dollar Tree. And as you can see, it doesn't quite fit. There's a bit of overlap here at the bottom, but you're not going to see that once you get the petals on. So all I did was I took my electric screwdriver and I just made holes, and I just attached it to my wreath form. Now once I had it on my wreath form, I knew that I wanted to place petals on the inside as well. So what I did is, and now it took a little time to do this, is that I had a finished outside done, and I just decided where I wanted the petals, and I just put the holes where I needed the petals, because the inside petals are going to be placed using a chenille stem instead of a tie wrap. Okay, so you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 areas that have 4 tie wraps in each, and then there's 1 on each bracket. So that's a total of 30 tie wraps. We're going to go ahead and start making this wreath. All right, so all you have to do is take your petal that you've already made, place it in your tie wrap, and I like to have the bottom of the petal just touching the next row, so the 3rd row down. And then I just take my needle nose pliers and I just tighten it up, and then I put the next one in. This. And I like to make sure my petals are all running in the same direction, meaning that the finished edge of this petal is going to be covering the unfinished edge of the previous petal. And another one. And I'll show you what I mean by that once I get 4 or 5 of these on. I like to wait to cut my tie wraps off till the end of the row, just as a time saver. And then I'm just going to put this one in. Just like this. And one more for you. And there you go. Okay, so as you can see, I have 1 petal on the bracket, and then 5 petals, 1, 2, 3, 4 petals in between brackets. So I'm just going to take my cutters, and I'm just going to snip these off. And I'm just going to turn these to the side so they're not facing up. When you put another petal on, it can cause the next petal to sort of rise up, so I like it to be facing backwards. Okay, so that's what the first bunch of petals look like. And as you can see, these are all finished edges here. And they are covering the unfinished edge of the previous petal. Hope that makes sense. Okay, now I've gone ahead and put the entire row on just for time. And this is what it looks like. Now I did lay a heavy book on top of it to let them lay flat. And this is what it looks like when you have all your petals already placed for the outside and laid flat. Okay, so now we're going to move to the inside of the petal, of the wreath, sorry. So the petals are made exactly the same way, with just the differences that I'm not going to be putting them on tie wraps. I'm going to be using a chenille stem in the middle of it. All right, so I'll show you how that's working. So you just do the petal the same way so that you have a bow tie, and then just turn this over. Now normally you would just scrunch at the bottom and just place it on the with the rubber band, but instead I'm taking a chenille stem and I'm placing it between those two. Okay, so it looks like this. All right, so I've already made the holes where I want these placed. So all I'm going to do is take this, come to my, and I've made 2 holes for each petal, and just place it in and snug it up. We'll be cutting all these off at the end. So I'm just going to go around and put 16 petals on. Just going to move this over slightly so I can fold them and stick them in. So this is a really nice size wreath for a door, 14 inches on the frame, which works out to about 20 inches in total with the petals in place. So you don't have to, you don't want to twist the bottom of this petal, like twist the chenille stem, because it will bring it together, and I want a little bit of space. That makes sense. So I'm just going to place it in. And you can do this with anything, anything for the center of it, as long as you can make holes in it, I suppose. Snug that up. And I'll show you how we're going to finish that at the end. I'm just going to make a few of these. Turn it over. My chenille stem. Place it between them. Just place this in. I got these chenille stems at my local dollar store. I don't know how many's in the package, but all sorts of different colors, and must have been a pretty reasonable price or I wouldn't have bought it. They have all sorts of really funny signs out now for summertime, beach themed and beverage themed, I guess. I'm not worried about these flipping down because I am going to affix something to it so they all stay up. The mesh likes to stick together. I'm not really concerned about it. You know, once again, I like to put a heavy book on the top of it once I get my all my petals down before I finish the wreath itself. Um, and that's just my preference, just to make it look a little flatter. So we're going to do 16 total around the outside, or sorry, around the inside. And I suppose if you wanted to make these, and you can put a clothes peg on them. There's not that many, so I'm just going to go ahead and just make them as I go. And this was just trial and error to decide where I wanted the inside placement of the petals. So basically I just put the outside on and then just decided where I want the inside petals to go. But I wanted to have enough coverage so that the inside petals cover the zip ties and the rubber bands on the petals on the row previous, which is important. Might enjoy this flamingo with his glasses on. Sipping a drink in the sun. Not too much sun here today in Canada. It was snowing earlier, then it got really overcast and looked threatening. Hasn't done it again, but I'm hoping this will be over soon, all this cold weather. We didn't have a really long winter, so I guess it's not surprising we're getting hit this time of year. So even when I'm putting these petals on, you can see that my finished edges, well, I'll be tucking them all in. That will be covering the unfinished edge. It's because that's something I like to do. We'll have to find a way to keep ourselves amused while all this pandemic stuff is going on, so. Do what you can. We're halfway there. Try to coordinate the chenille stem with the color of the petals that I'm putting in. You certainly can just use white or whatever color you have available, because you're really not going to show at all. this in here. Oops, wrong way. Now you can use certainly 10-inch square petals to make this. It would just make your wreath quite a bit bigger, and also you would need less mesh if you were using 10-inch squares. But unfortunately, we don't have that available right now in Canada. So a 6-inch it is. Once this is all finished, I will lay a heavy book on it to make the petals lay flat, which I think is important. Just makes it look a little bit better. Oops. Just a few more of these to go in. Mesh has a bit of a mind of its own sometimes, so sometimes it just needs a little coaxing, and by putting something heavy on it, after you've completed it, that's good coaxing. Just 2 more. So as you can see, these petals that are going in, they're completely covering all of the wreath form. And also on the petal that we put on previously, you can't see the zip ties or the rubber bands that I used, which is awesome. That's fun. Just place this in. Like this. Sometimes you have to just spend a little bit of time when you're making a wreath if you want it to be original. Finding out what works for you and what's the best way that the most cost-effective way, I guess, that you can make it. Because if you're selling wreaths, you don't want to spend more money than you are going to get for the wreath itself, right? All right, so I'm just going to all of them are in now. So all the petals are in. And I'm just going to clip these chenille stems. Oh, you know what? I missed one. Yep, right there. Just noticed it when it was not filled in. So let's go ahead and put that in. Should have known that because I had one tie wrap left. Or not a tie wrap, a chenille stem. Right here. So I'm going to have one that's going to give you a little bit of trouble, and that's just the way things work in life. There we go. Now, we have all these in, so I'm just going to clip them off. A handy little refuse container, I guess. And I like to use the bigger wire cutters just because it's faster. Now, if this was your just for yourself, you wouldn't have to do anything to the back if you didn't want to. I'm not making this for myself. I'm making it for someone else. So I will be doing a coverage on the back, and I'll show you how that's going to go on. It's just a preference of mine. I just really like everything to have a finished look. Especially somebody's paying you for it. It's important that they, you know, they get a good quality product and it looks completed. And it covers everything from on the back that you've done. So I'm just going to kind of lay these flat. So I'm going to flip this over and I'm going to tuck all my unfinished edges under my finished edges. If that makes sense to you. So these are finished and these are unfinished. So I'm just going to tuck these under and hope this will coax them to lay a little bit flatter. It is mesh, so once you put something heavy on it, when it's completed, leave it overnight, come back to it the next day, they'll all be laying flat, happy. I mean, you certainly don't have to do this. It's just a preference of mine that I like the finished edges to be over top of the unfinished edges. Okay, so no, it's not going to be. And you could certainly just put some hot glue on them if they don't want to cooperate. I'm going to be laying a book on top of it, so I'm not concerned at all. So just to finish this the rest of the way, I'm going to take my piece of rope, and it's white, and I'm just going to put a little bit of hot glue on it, to the edges of it, just to... And normally I would be wearing, of course this doesn't want to work. So basically all I'm going to do is just place this all around the inside. I'll just use glue and glue it down. It just gives it a more finished look. But once I have this laying flat, you really don't need it. So once this is all laying flat, you really don't need to put anything else on it because once it's flattened down, you're not going to need anything. That's what it looks like. So, because you know, I like things finished, I'm going to go ahead and just put this, I've already cut it to fit on the back, just like this. And I'm just going to put it on with zip ties. So it's a completed back and nothing will be sharp and scratch a door or a wall. Yeah, and that's what I'll do afterwards before I give it to her. So there you go. That is your Flamingo Summer Wreath. If you would enjoy this tutorial, just go ahead and like, give me a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe. I do tutorials every every Thursday and every Sunday. Thursdays at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's Canadian time, Ontario time. I hope everybody enjoyed this and have a really good day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.